It just shows you, doesn't it? A split second of an incident can change your life forever.
This is the voice of former police constable Alan Godfrey regarding his UFO encounter that occurred in Todmorden in the United Kingdom on November 28, 1980. That evening, Alan had been called out to Todmorden, West Yorkshire, in which he was responding to a call about some cattle that had escaped. Alan searched the area and could not see the cows. He assumed the call-out was a prank and started driving back to the station. As he was driving back, he was called out to the same location again by an elderly woman, saying that she had seen the cows. Then a bright light appeared and the cows disappeared. As Alan was driving back to the scene, he could see a large object in the distance.
As I'm approaching it, I realised what I was looking at wasn't anything I'd ever seen before. It was hovering about 5 foot off the ground because as I'm approaching I could see under it. It was diamond in shape. It was approximately 20 feet wide and approximately 14 feet high. So I got within about 20 yards and there it was, just hovering there. It's spinning, but slowly anti-clockwise. The leaves and the twigs were all swirling clockwise.
Can you see into it at all?
No, it was a solid object, apart from what it looked like black panelling or black darkened windows that went round the top of it. It was silent. It didn't make a noise. I didn't feel any vibration in the car, yet these leaves were going clockwise round the object. Right weird.
Alan was trying to make sense of what he was seeing and attempted to use his radio to call the station, but he could not get a signal. He tried again several times, but still could not get a signal. Alan then began to draw a sketch of the object when suddenly a bright light appeared. He lost consciousness and woke up 20 minutes later, 90 meters away from his last location. Alan had no recollection of what had happened and noticed his boots were ripped, along with strange marks on his foot which had not been there before. He then drove back to where he remembers the car being parked, and despite it raining at the time, that particular section of the road was dry. Alan then drove back to the station and saw another constable named Malcolm Agley, who was finishing his shift. They drove to the spot where Alan had seen the strange object. Malcolm also saw that the road was bone dry and felt warm to the touch. He was completely mystified. The men decided to see if anyone else had seen the object and wandered into a nearby field where they came across some cows. Were these the same cows that Alan was searching for earlier? 5 other police officers who were attending an incident in Todmorden on the same night as Alan had also reported seeing a strange blue light about an hour before Alan had his encounter. Another witness by the name of Leonard Smith also came forward describing a bright light that was zigzagging around in the same area of Todmorden. Alan's experience reminded him of an incident that he had been called out to about 6 months prior, in which a man by the name of Zygmunt Adamski was found dead, lying on his back on top of a 3-meter pile of coal. The strange thing about his corpse was that there appeared to be no obvious cause of death and no sign of coal on Zygmunt's shoes or hands, which suggests he was placed there by somebody. He was wearing a suit jacket, but no shirt underneath, and his buttons were not fastened properly, suggesting he had gotten dressed in a hurry, or perhaps someone else had dressed him. There were strange burn marks on the back of his head and neck, along with an open wound that had a strange yellow-green gel-like substance coating the burns. Forensic scientists were unable to determine what the substance was. Zygmunt had been missing for 5 days prior to his body being discovered. He had left his home in Tingley on June 6th to visit a local store and never returned. There is speculation that Zygmunt had connections with the KGB and that he was kidnapped by them. His facial hair stubble was only a day old, suggesting he may have been in a place where he was able to shave. He had thick, wavy hair when he left the house that morning. However, when his body was found, his hair had been cut. It is thought he may have been tortured during this time due to the burn marks and his disheveled appearance. Alan stated that he would never forget the frightened look on Zygmunt's face. It looked like something had scared him to death. The way in which his body was found, the strange gel substance that could not be identified, led Alan to think that perhaps Zygmunt had been the victim of a UFO abduction. Alan filed an official report regarding the incident, and despite other witnesses having seen the same phenomena, Alan became the butt of many jokes at the station. It wasn't just harmless fun, it actually got to the point where Alan felt he was being victimized. Soon after, Alan was called into the Chief Inspector's office, in which an individual from the Ministry of Defense was waiting for him. Alan was ordered not to disclose anything to the media about Zygmunt or his own encounter. Alan had several encounters with this man, who appeared to be stalking him at one stage, following him into a pub that he frequented. Alan continued to experience ridicule and harassment and felt like he was being forced out of his job. He started to drink heavily and ended up retiring from the force. Alan decided to investigate his experience further and underwent hypnosis, in which he was able to provide a lot more detail regarding his encounter. Alan claims to have been hit by a beam of light after having stepped out of his car, then feeling a sense of weightlessness while he was being lifted into the hovering craft above. He lost consciousness and awoke to find himself looking at a humanoid creature that was roughly 6 foot tall, who communicated with him telepathically, asking him to get onto an examination table, in which he was then confronted by 8 other beings that performed medical experiments on him. Despite being in shock, Alan also felt a sense of calm, with the being telling him not to be afraid and that they would not hurt him. It is suggested that Alan was suffering from a hallucination because he was stressed from working long hours in his job. The incident occurred around 5:15 a.m., and it is possible he may have been hallucinating from lack of sleep and mistook a helicopter for a UFO. Some suggest that what he saw was actually the Futuro house, which was a dome-shaped object positioned in close proximity to the Todmorden police station that bears a strong resemblance to a UFO. It is also suggested that Alan may have conflated his experience with that of Betty and Barney Hill. He was reading about their experience at the time of his hypnotic treatment. Therefore, it is possible that he may have confused their experiences with his own. These theories do not explain why other witnesses claimed to have seen the same thing that night. It seems unlikely that the elderly lady who saw the cows disappear and the other police officers that saw strange lights were hallucinating as well. The interesting thing about the town of Todmorden is that before Alan's experience, it was considered to be a hotspot for paranormal activity, ranging from ghosts to cattle mutilations. It has a unique geographic location of being situated at the meeting point of 3 mountain chains. Since Alan's experience, the town has become the UFO hotspot of the UK, with over 1,000 sightings having occurred during the past decade. To this day, Alan stands by his claim that what he saw was not of this world. If he was hallucinating, why is it that the government have not released his file publicly? What do you think happened to Alan Godfrey?